I buried my own damn daughter alive, and the bitch crawled out of the dirt just to watch me burn. The words detonated across the diner like a hand grenade, with the pin already pulled. Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. A trucker in a John Deere cap dropped his fork. It clanged so loud you could hear it over the sizzle of the grill. My own heartbeat slammed against my ribs so hard, I thought the cheap vinyl booth was gonna crack. That was the exact second my old life ended. I'm Ellie Harper, 26, lifelong waitress at the Route 66 Pit Stop Diner in Elk City, Oklahoma. Tips were shit, dreams were smaller, and the only thing I ever expected to inherit was my daddy's beer gut and bad luck. But right then, across from me, my father Rusty Harper, long-haul trucker, part-time drunk, full-time liar, was shaking like a leaf in a tornado, tears cutting clean lines through 3 days of road dust on his cheeks. Everybody in the diner was staring. Carla, my boss, had one hand over her mouth and the other on the phone like she was ready to dial 911. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Dad, I finally croaked. What the hell did you just say? He looked straight into my eyes, and for the first time in my life I saw terror in them. Real terror. Your sister, Ellie, Leela, your twin. I put her in the ground 26 years ago, under the willow tree out back of the old house. And she's alive, she's coming, and sweet Jesus, she ain't coming for forgiveness. The rain started hammering the tin roof like it wanted in on the conversation. That was Tuesday. By Friday, I'd quit my job, sold everything that wouldn't fit in a duffel bag, and was sitting in a private jet headed west with a woman who looked exactly like me. Her eyes were older, harder, and worth about $300 million. This is the whole damn story. No cuts, no mercy. Buckle up. Dad didn't come home that night after the diner. I waited on the sagging porch of the double-wide we'd shared since Mom left. Chain-smoking menthols, I swore I'd quit. At 2:17 a.m. my phone lit up. Unknown number. One line, under the bridge. Midnight tomorrow. Come alone, or he dies. Elk. I knew which bridge. Everybody in Elk City did. The Union Pacific Overpass, where the homeless built cardboard condos and teenagers went to screw or die, depending on the night. I should have called the cops. Instead, I texted back, I'll be there. The next 24 hours were a fever. I told Carla I was taking family emergency leave. She hugged me so hard my ribs creaked and slipped a .38 revolver into my purse. Girl, whatever this is, don't go soft. Midnight found me walking the gravel, shoulder with a flashlight in one hand and Carla's gun in the other. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled like wet pennies. Fires flickered in rusted barrels. Shadow people watched me pass. She was waiting in the deepest part of the shadow, leaning against a concrete pillar like she owned the darkness. Same height, same mouth, same cowlick at the hairline I'd hated since kindergarten. But where I wore diner grease and exhaustion, she wore a black trench coat that probably cost more than the trailer I grew up in. Her boots didn't have a speck of mud. Ellie, she said, voice low, velvet with razor wire underneath. You came, Lila. The name tasted foreign and familiar at the same time. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. In the flesh, resurrected, upgraded, and extremely pissed off. She stepped forward and the firelight caught her face. A thin scar ran from her left temple into her hairline, like someone had tried to erase her, and she'd refused to vanish. I'm not here to hurt you, she said. Not yet. I just needed to see if you were real. If you were clean. Clean of what? Of him. Of them. She tilted her head. You ever feel like half of you was missing, Ellie? Like you were born with a phantom limb nobody else could see? Every damn day of my life. She reached into her coat and pulled out an envelope thick with papers. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., Elk City Municipal Airport, Hangar 4. Bring whatever you can't live without. We're going to California. And we're going to finish what Daddy started. I took the envelope. My fingers brushed hers like touching a mirror that was warmer than it should be. What if I say no? She looked almost sad. Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering why you wake up screaming with dirt in your mouth. Then she melted back into the shadows before I could ask another question. The jet was a Gulfstream G650. Leather, seats that smelled like money and new beginnings. Leela, no. She told me to call her Voss. Now poured champagne. I didn't drink. What? I asked. New name, new life. You Barry Harper with the old one. She handed me a tablet. On it, articles, stock prices, magazine covers. Fostek, founder and CEO, Leela Voss. Net worth, $2.9 billion and climbing. And there, in a Forbes photo from last year, standing just behind her my brother Jake. Thinner, haunted, but smiling like a man who'd sold his soul and got top dollar. Jake works for you. Jake stole from me, she corrected. He took my code, my idea, my blood, and turned it into his origin story. But blood recognizes blood, Ellie. That's why I need you. For what? She leaned forward to decide how this ends, revenge or redemption. One of us gets to choose. The other has to live with it. I stared out the window at the endless black below. Somewhere down there was the diner, the life I'd thought was the whole story. Tell me everything, I said. From the night you died? So she did. August 12, 1999. Clinton Memorial Hospital, Clinton, Oklahoma. Ellie Harper Me was born first, screaming, healthy. 3 minutes later came baby girl Harper, number 2, blue. Barely a pound and a half. Doctors said she wouldn't last the night. Rusty Harper, already half drunk on panic and cheap whiskey, signed papers giving permission to cease heroic measures. A sympathetic nurse paid under the table, swapped the bracelets. Baby girl number 2, Leela, was quietly ventilated in NICU while an empty incubator got the Harper name. They told Rusty and Mom the second twin passed peacefully, hemorrhaging and sedated. Believed it. Rusty buried an empty box under the willow tree while the real baby fought for every breath 3 floors up. 2 months later, when the hospital realized the miracle baby had no family claiming her, she entered the foster system as Jane Doe, preemie, 812. Leela's first memory, age 4, being told Santa wasn't real because her foster dad needed the money for meth. She ran away at 14, lived in abandoned houses, taught herself to code on library computers. By 17, she'd built an app that predicted police patrols, sold it on the dark web for enough cash to buy a new name and a one-way ticket to San Francisco. She never stopped looking for the people who threw her away. She found them 6 years ago. Leela showed up at the old house on County Road 9 with a bottle of Dad's favorite whiskey and a gun in her waistband. Dad opened the door, saw her face, saw beyond, dropped the bottle. It shattered on the porch like a gunshot. He tried to slam the door. She kicked it open, put the barrel under his chin. You buried me, she whispered. Now I get to decide if you join me. Jake walked in on them like that, recognized the code on her laptop, code he'd been trying to write for months, realized this ghost was the genius he'd been looking for. Instead of calling the cops, he made a deal. Help her launch the app under his name. Keep Dad quiet. Split the money, 50-50. They shook on it over the fresh dirt under the willow tree. For 5 years it worked. Vostok exploded. Jake became the boy wonder billionaire. Lila stayed in the shadows, pulling strings, getting richer, getting angrier. Then Dad started drinking again, started talking. One night at a bar in Tulsa, he told the wrong trucker the wrong story. Word got back to Leela. She decided it was time the family had a reunion. We landed at a private airstrip south of San Jose. A blacked-out Suburban waited. Driver didn't speak, just handed me a burner phone and a credit card with my name on it but no limit. First stop, Vostok headquarters. 40 stories of glass and ego. Employees in hoodies and $1,000 sneakers did double takes when they saw 2 of us walking through the lobby. Lila didn't slow down. Straight to the executive floor. Her office took up half the top. Level 1 wall, nothing but screens, scrolling code, and stock prices. She poured herself vodka from a freezer built into the desk. Welcome home, twin. I walked to the window. The entire Bay Area glittered below like broken promises. Jake's waiting, she said, but first, you need to see something. She tapped a key. Security footage filled the screens. Jake, my big brother, sitting in a dimly lit room, rocking back and forth, muttering to himself. Timestamp. Last night. He's been leaking board documents, Lila said quietly. Trying to tank the company before I can tank him. Guilt's a hell of a drug. I felt my stomach drop. We have to help him. That's why you're here. He'll listen to you. He always listened to you. We found Jake in a dive bar called The Rusty Nail. Same name as Dad. Poetic or pathetic, take your pick. He looked 10 years older than the last time I saw him. Hair gone gray at the temples, eyes bloodshot. When he spotted us, he bolted. We chased him 3 blocks through puddles and broken glass. Leela tackled him in an alley that smelled like piss and desperation. He fought her like a cornered animal until I stepped between them. Jake, it's me, it's Ellie. He stopped punching, stared, then folded in half and cried like a little kid. I held him while he shook. Leela stood guard, scanning the shadows. In the SUV, on the way to the ranch, he told us everything. How the guilt had started as heartburn and turned into panic attacks that left him puking in 5-star hotel bathrooms. How he'd hired a pie to follow Leela, terrified she'd killed Dad or him. How he'd fallen in love with her somewhere along the line and hated himself for it. I thought if I destroyed the company, she'd have to forgive me, he whispered. Stupid, right? Leela's knuckles went white on the steering wheel, but she didn't say a word. The safe house was 2 hours north, 600 acres of redwoods and silence. No cell service, no internet, just horses, a stocked kitchen, and enough bedrooms that nobody had to look at each other if they didn't want to. First morning, I woke to the smell of bacon. Leela at the stove in pajama shorts and an old Vostek hoodie, flipping pancakes like we were normal sisters. Jake sat at the island nursing black coffee, looking like death warmed over. We didn't talk about the big stuff yet. We talked about small stuff. Mom's meatloaf recipe, the time Jake taught me to drive stick in the Walmart parking lot, and I killed the engine 17 times. For 2 days, it almost felt like healing. Then the satellite phone rang. Lila answered. Her face went still. It's Mom, she said after she hung up. She wants to meet, says she has proof Dad was protecting us from something worse. Jake laughed until he cried. There's nothing worse, but we went anyway. Mom lived in a pastel bungalow in Clearwater now, married to a guy named Gary, who sold timeshares and, apparently, ran a Ponzi scheme on the side. She opened the door, in a floral house, took one look at the three of us, and dropped the orange juice she was holding. Lord Jesus, she whispered. Gary tried to play tough, until Leela slid an envelope across the kitchen table. Photos of him with his mistress. Wire transfers to an offshore account. The works. He left for golf and never came back. Mom cried for an hour straight. Then she told us the part Dad never had. The hospital didn't just lose Leela. They sold her. Back in '99, there was a black market adoption ring running out of Clinton Memorial. Desperate doctors, desperate parents, babies who died on paper got new birth certificates and new lives with families who paid 6 figures. Dad found out after the fact, went to the cops, but the detective was in on it. They threatened to take me and Jake away if he talked. So he took the hush money, buried the empty box, and spent the next 26 years trying to outrun the devil. Mom thought Leela really was dead until 5 years ago, when Jake's face started showing up on magazine covers next to a woman who looked exactly like her babies. She wrote Leela letters, never sent them. Leela read every single one in silence while Mom watched, twisting a tissue to shreds. When she finished, Leela folded the letters neatly and put them back in the shoebox. Thank you, she said. Mom blinked. For what, baby? For finally telling the truth. That's all I ever wanted. We left Mom alive, crying on her couch, while federal agents knocked on the door for Gary. Some punishments fit better than others. We flew back to Oklahoma. 4 of us, now me, Leela, Jake, and a quiet determination none of us could name. The old house had been empty for years. Windows boarded, yard gone wild. Leela bought it over the phone for triple asking just to get the keys fast. Midnight, full moon, 4 shovels. Dad was waiting under the willow, sitting on a folding chair with a bottle of Jack and handcuffs dangling from one wrist. He'd turned himself in that morning, wanted to be there when we dug. I owe her this, he said simply. We dug for 3 hours. Dirt flew. Roots snapped. Memories bled. At 3:07 a.m. we hit metal, not a coffin. A fireproof safe. Lila opened it with shaking hands. Inside, hospital records, a flash drive, and a single Polaroid. 2 tiny babies, side by side in an incubator, both wearing pink hats. Someone had written on the bottom, in faded ink, Harper Twins, the 12th of August, '99, property of Dr. M. Reynolds, and beneath that, in different handwriting, sold to the Langfords, Seattle, $150,000. Leela made a sound like a dying animal. Jake dropped his shovel and vomited into the hole. Dad just stared at the sky like he was waiting for lightning. I took the photo, turned it over, on the back, in childish handwriting. If you find this, I'm still alive. Don't let them bury me again. LVH9. She'd hidden the evidence in the one place she knew we'd come back to someday. We didn't kill Dad. Didn't have to. The feds took him that night. 26 murder charge upgraded to kidnapping and human trafficking. He'll die in prison. Mom entered witness protection after testifying against the adoption ring. Last we heard, she volunteers at a crisis nursery in Oregon. Some debts you pay forward. Jake checked himself into rehab. 6 months sober now. Started a foundation that puts coding boot camps in juvenile detention centers. Calls it Second Draft. Leela sold Vostek for $14 billion. Took her money and disappeared for a year. I finished my social work degree, top of the class. Then one morning I woke up to an email. Subject, Your sister is building something new. She needs you. Attachment. Plane ticket to Costa Rica, one way. She'd bought an entire mountain valley, built a campus of glass and bamboo where kids who aged out of foster care learned to code, to farm, to heal. The main building is shaped like a bridge. Opening day, 500 kids from 17 countries. Leela stood on the stage in jeans and a t-shirt that said unburied and unbroken. She didn't give a big speech, just held up that old Polaroid and said, "This is my twin, Ellie. She's the reason any of us get a second draft. Whatever they buried you as, you get to decide what grows next." Then she handed me the mic. I looked out at all those faces, some hard, some scared, all beautiful, and I started crying so hard I could barely talk. But I said the only thing that mattered. You are not what they threw away. You are what climbs out. Later that night, Leela and I sat on the bridge that connects the dorms to the dining hall. Fireflies everywhere. Jungle sounds. Stars so bright they hurt. She passed me a beer. Think we did it. Broke the cycle. I took a long pull. We dug through the dirt. That's a start. She leaned her head on my shoulder. First time she'd done that since we were microscopic. Hey, Elle. Yeah. Next time someone asks if we're identical, I grinned. Tell M, we're mirror images. One got buried. The other did the digging. She laughed real ugly. Perfect. Below us, kids who'd once slept under bridges, laughed and ran through the grass, chasing light. No more graves, just bridges. And for the first time in 26 years, both Harper twins slept through the night. No dirt in our mouths, no screams in our dreams, just the sound of something growing. I still get emails from readers of the book we wrote together. Leela did the tech parts. I did the heart parts. They asked the same question you probably have right now. Would you have forgiven them? My answer never changes. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's deciding the story doesn't end in the grave. If you're reading this and you've got dirt in your lungs, family secrets, old wounds, shame someone else piled on you, listen close. Start digging. There's air up here and someone on the other side waiting to pull you out. Drop your story in the comments. I answer every single one because none of us were meant to stay buried. See you on the bridge.